Welcome to I Am Prime Minister, where well-known celebs unleash their outrage about life's annoyances and tell you how they'd sort it out.
Every man must experience the period pain.
If you talk or use your mobile phone during a theatre performance, I would taser you.
I don't know whether this fits in, but people
Doesn't matter,
who
tell
don't
us.
pick up their dog poo really annoy me.
I Am Prime Minister, the only political podcast that has absolutely nothing to do with politics.
I'd like to say welcome to our brand new Prime Minister, Geoff Lloyd, host of They Like to Watch with Sarah Barron and Adrift with Annabelle Port. You've just celebrated your 300th and final episode now that you've become Prime Minister.
No, I'm going to keep that going.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think how hard can it be?
Surely
this job?
it is an amount. There's only a finite amount of time before there is a Prime Minister with a podcast.
Yes, it's certainly heading that way. And
Yeah.
I'm
Surprised
glad to
Rishi Sunak hasn't done that already. It seems like the kind of thing he would do.
some kind of vanity project. Yeah, like all the
Him
stuff
and
with
Stephen Bartlett.
Yes.
He'll only do it if his wife has some sort of interest in a podcast company, though. That's
she's the angel investor.
Yeah.
It's very odd, all the stuff with photographers, isn't it? Yeah. Trying to make every day look like the West Wing.
Yeah, it must be dull. It's sort of a testament to their talent, really, of like this sort of great moody photo. It's just him going for a sandwich, him nipping to the Tesco in Westminster.
It's slightly less glamorous than... Maybe that's the first thing we do, and we make it more glamorous for you.
I don't want glamour.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how this has happened. I can't imagine it's been any kind of landslide. What's that thing with Kiefer Sutherland where he's like the last congressman and
Designated survivor.
Yes, yeah, I can only imagine this has happened because I'm some kind of
You're the
designated...
only one left.
Yes.
So this isn't... You've never thought about politics because, you've had huge platforms on radio, podcasts. You never thought I should spin this into doing good in the world.
No, of course not, because I'm not mental. I've done a podcast for a long time with a politician. So me and Ed Miliband do a podcast together.
Oh yes, of course you do.
And I love him, and we have a great time. We've had many interesting conversations, but nothing about that experience has made me think, oh, this looks like fun.
But is he not? Does he not go? Oh, I'm deterred by it now. But he still loves it, the politics and being in it.
Just not the bacon sarnies.
Well, no. I mean, that was a nightmare for him. At least he laughs about it now, though.
Hopefully.
Well, this is the thing, this thing that we found out from doing the podcast. Like, we got so much email when we started doing it, which said, "Oh, Ed, if I'd have known you were like this, I would have voted for you."
Oh, no.
Which is heartbreaking for him because he was just like that. He was just sort of never given the space to.
Well, maybe he
to
needed to do a podcast. Maybe this is the perfect way for the public to fall in love with you.
You think?
Just having a prime ministerial podcast.
Yes, it hasn't happened yet, but I think it's on the way, isn't it? Yes.
Well, look, we want to go through everything. It's been a sudden victory, and we're going to help you put together all of your policies. We're going to start with the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. Now, do you have any policy ideas here?
Yes, I would like to defund the BBC.
Oh, wow, straight in.
Yes, and not for the usual reasons either.
Okay.
I love the BBC. It is a beloved national institution, and it has greatly enriched the cultural and intellectual and political life of our country. It is good for a healthy democracy. However, when I was leaving my job in commercial radio, I went for many meetings at the BBC, and 3 separate channel controllers said to me, "Oh, I've got something in mind for you." And it turned out they didn't. So I would like to wreak revenge on the BBC. As an act of revenge, I would like to defund the BBC.
So this is sort of like...
Spite.
Yeah, it's going to be a real revenge-based premiership.
Yes.
Has anyone else really upset you that we can murder people if you want, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, there was a girl called Rachel Leonard in my class who said, I would go out with you, but all my friends would laugh at me. I'd like to wreak some kind of revenge on her somehow.
Rachel Leonard.
Maybe through her national insurance number.
We'll
tax code.
We'll get GCHQ on
get
it.
Her audited. Yeah. That would be...
I think that's a really good way to deal with the BBC, because I've had very similar things.
And I loved it up until that point.
Yeah.
It's funny, I really believed in the BBC until they weren't forthcoming about giving me money. I tell you what, I would leave Radio 4 open.
Yeah,
because I'm doing some stuff for them this year. But I would review it on a year-by-year basis.
So as soon as your series gets cancelled on Radio 4, then they're gone as well?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Gosh, so it's just going to be the longest-running TV show.
I actually think that could be a policy that will work. So, like, slashing the funding for every other bit of BBC apart from Radio 4, I think a lot of people will get on board with it. Certainly the chattering classes in the media, because you're...
Oh, they love it, the chattering classes, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, look, great idea. And do you have to do all the shows on Radio 4 or just yours?
I would be happy for it to continue as long as they continued.
Is it too little too late as well? If Radio 2 offered you a show, can they stay? Or is it they've had their chance?
I mean, they sort of commissioned a documentary from me a couple of years ago. So I could give them a stay of execution based on that.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Really, I mean, they've had a hard time of it recently with Steve Wright and what have you.
Well, I just wondered how quickly can you send in a demo after something like that happens often?
I think it's 5 weeks.
Okay, 5 weeks. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'll be
a
doing that then.
condolence email to the controller, reminding them that you're around.
Very nice.
And then 5 weeks. Yeah. Okay. I think it's the rule.
Okay, that's good. That's easily done. We're going to defund the BBC. We can get started on that now. Obviously,
Easy.
I don't need to ask you if anyone has ever wanted to defund the BBC before because it's very common in Parliament.
Oh yeah, sort of very easy. There's literally a campaign group called Defund the BBC, and unfortunately for the BBC, they do sort of have these stories that a lot of right-wing media just sort of think, right, this is clearly planted for them. This can't be true. This story, there's sort of ridiculous amounts of nonsense that come out, or various guidelines aimed at not offending people that end up offending everybody, not calling terrorist groups terrorists. There's so many, a plethora of stories that just come up and up in various sections of the media. You think, God, please don't let that be true. And it's sad because I like you, so I really think the BBC is wonderful. But you see the deterioration of the quality of BBC News, for example, when you see it's what used to be incredible and it's now merged news and world. So if you look at the BBC News rolling output, it's sort of it's not catered to a UK audience, which I think is a bit sad. Having to cut all that and it's just a guest on Zoom. You don't expect that from the BBC, the sort of high status premier A-side broadcaster.
I think what it usually is, like, you've worked in politics, so you know that politics is just the thick of it.
Yeah.
And the BBC is just W1A.
Yeah.
It's a lot of well-intentioned people trying to do the right thing and quite often bumbling their way into doing...
In politics now, unfortunately, there's two types of people. There's people who want to act out their fantasies of the West Wing in politics, and it goes disastrously wrong every time. And annoyingly, there's also a lot of people who want to pretend that they're Malcolm Tucker. Is this, in your experience in media, is this a similar thing of people aspiring to be their favourite W1A characters, or is that...
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I'd not thought about people wanting to... Is that a real thing, that people wanting to be like Malcolm Tucker? Because what I've seen of politics, having observed it, like, I've completely rid myself of any idea of, like, sort of shadowy, like, what's really going on. If you could just get close to power, you find out what really is going on.
Chaos and swearing, I often find.
Just like the thick of it. But I didn't think that nobody I've met who's doing it actually wants it to be like
not
that.
all. Let's just stress not all.
The problem is probably they think they're Malcolm Tucker, but they're actually the other Stuart.
Jamie.
Yeah, the other guy. The fit touchy-feely one.
Yes,
I think, and radio and media is like it does feel like a sitcom about radio quite often. Like every station I've worked at, it's roughly the same characters in each role.
Yeah.
Like every station controller I've worked with is a different version of a very nerdy radio man who's got a bit too much power.
Yes.
And it's sort of, it does get a bit weird. So, look, I mean, I just think, let's get rid of all that. How do you feel about commercial things? They're fine because they've given you a good life?
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem.
We'll
have to have
I've got
normal
some
radio.
individual grudges. I've got a long list. The
security services can work through those.
Okay, we're going to move on. What is your next DCMS policy you'd like to talk about?
Next DCMS policy is... so I would get Ofcom to enforce quotas on drama commissioners of how many stories can be about posh people who've been to private school. Now, I'm not saying those stories shouldn't exist, and what I'm not saying is that stories about where the power lies in society. That is an important subject for drama, but what I'm saying is, I recently watched One Day and quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But given that 7 or 8% of people in this country go to private school, I'm thinking, why haven't I seen 92 other dramas that aren't about the love life of a posh person before I have to sit through this?
Well, because only posh people, it's real love with posh people.
Yeah.
Poor people, rut.
Exactly. It's not that the person commissioning the drama just happens to be one of those people.
Yeah, but then and what's annoying is as well, there's so many of those dramas, and all the papers talk about is oh, there's too many dramas about gritty. There's too many dramas about gritty real people. But actually, it's the opposite, isn't it? Too many things about posh people gently talking about stuff.
Yes, yeah. And also, like my work, like there's too many dramas about working class people who, to make ends meet, have to descend into a life of crime and the underworld. Like my family, I mean, I've got a couple of cousins who do decorating for cash in hand, but that's about as far as it goes. Like, why can't working class people just get to do the things that middle class people get to do?
The
on
irony
telly?
is mostly posh people are doing crime for money, really, aren't
Yes.
they? You know, you're looking at all the dramas about people who work in the city, very glamorous jobs. They're the real criminals, not the posh people.
I agree.
More of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and is it? What's the quota you're going to go for? 7 or 8% then? But
Yeah. I think it should reflect the amount of people who've actually been to private
Well, maybe
school.
look. I know you're going to defund the BBC, but maybe we just put all this in one place, so it's out of your way as well. So we could have the PBC, the Posh Broadcasting Corporation. And they're just
Subscription only.
Subscription only, very expensive. So you have to have made lots of money to get it.
Yes.
So it appeals to the right people.
Yes, yeah,
And then
yeah.
we can have everything else.
Yeah, although I do want all the channels at number 10.
We'll get you a subscription. That's
Great.
not an issue. Because it's good to have the occasional one.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy one day. I thought it was fine. It was fine. But where are the 92 other shows before I have to watch that
Is
one?
it like that classic Netflix drama you watch? You go, oh.
Yeah, most stuff is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I've got such high expectations for TV. So I do this TV podcast, and I want everything to be good as Breaking Bad or Succession. But for most of my life, most TV hasn't been that good.
No.
But now that I've been spoiled, I want everything to
What's
be...
your top 5 TV shows then?
I'd say Curb Your Enthusiasm, Succession, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Larry Sanders Show. How's that?
Yeah.
Great.
I'd
It's off the top of my
have
head.
chucked The Wire in there as well.
Oh,
but-
yeah. I like the one
Never
with the
seen The Wire.
stevedores. You know, there's one season of The Wire that people don't like, which is about trade unionists.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Frank
I love-
Sobotka, legend.
Oh, yeah. I'll watch anything about the miners' strike. That is like catnip to me. Industrial action. You see,
You love some industrial action
Oh, I
shows.
love it, yeah. When I was a kid, my dad would always say to me, if you'd been born 30 miles north of here, you'd be down pit by now. Like, he was obsessed with the idea that I should be feeling grateful for my life because I wasn't down the pit. So it's a big part. Being aware that I'm not down the pit is a very big part of my identity.
So do you think you watch it because it makes you go, oh, thank God?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah,
all
Counting my blessings that I'm not down the pit. Although I watched that Channel 4 miners' strike recently, the 3-part documentary, and all of them, like I've had this privileged. Cotton wool life working in media and a silly job since I was 16.
Yeah.
And I would never talk about any job I have ever had with the affection that these miners talk about being down pit.
And it was not fun.
No, but that happened. I will moan. The radio station, you know.
Yeah.
They won't let me print out on paper anymore. I've got to read it. Whatever it is, you know. They've stopped paying for me to have a car to go home or whatever. I'll moan about those things.
And they're so grateful.
Yes. And the miners, they all speak with such affection about being down pit.
Well, look, we could also spin this off maybe into a work and pensions policy where everyone has to do some time in the pits for their own mental health.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the pits have closed. I don't know if you've
Well,
heard
we
of
can
the
reopen
80s.
them.
Yes, reopening the pits.
Or
Yes.
there has to be compulsory dramas classes where they do exclusively brassed off.
Yeah, because sometimes I find, especially with my wife who's not British, some people find it easier to stomach the sort of hard-hitting industrial drama if there is a music or a dance component to it, like Brassed Off or Billy Elliot. Yeah. Maybe some kind of immersive,
Rather than sending people down the pit
theatre
again.
down the pit. I hate immersive theatre.
Yeah, oh, no,
Can we
I
ban
like
that?
it.
You like immersive
Yeah,
theatre?
I've been to Punch Drunk and all those things. I
Me
really
too,
enjoy it.
Punch Drunk. I went to the Macbeth one.
Yeah.
But you just wander around in a mask like you're at an orgy. You don't have to. Not that I've been to an orgy, but I've seen them on television. Like 15 rated
Is
ones.
it sort of all the bad things of an orgy?
Yes.
Because you're not allowed to talk.
No.
You're not allowed to touch anyone.
This is good for me. I don't
It's
want
hot
to talk
in there, yeah.
Yeah. No, we went to see Cabaret. last week,
yeah.
the Kit Kat Club, because a friend of mine is in it. And I'd seen it before, and I think it's a fantastic production of one of the most significant pieces of our time. But the theatre before you arrive is transformed into the Kit Kat Club in 1930s Berlin, and there are people wandering around, and performances are happening around you. And I just feel like a pervert, like looking at a contortionist. I don't know where to put my eyes, you know? I just want to sit in a theatre seat. Oh, and by the way, one of my policies would be it'd be a massive infrastructure policy, because I would make seats in theatres comfortable. What about that? Well, nobody's thought of that before. The most comfortable seat in a theatre is less comfortable than the least comfortable seat in your home.
Yes.
Why should that be?
So I'm going to push back on this, Prime Minister, because I think...
by the way, I don't know if my people spoke to you. They may be saying that I like to be called Your Excellency. Okay. But you can just call me Geoff.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because this is the thing I'm going to do, and you will have seen this, Lorin, is I'm going to be very nice to people's... I'm very needy to be liked, so I'm going to be very nice to people's faces all the time. Yeah. But then if anybody looks me in the eye or doesn't call me Your Excellency, I'm going to yell at one of my spads. Yeah.
So you say, call me Geoff, but that is a test.
No, yeah, you'll call me Geoff, and then afterwards, like one of my people will come over and go, oh, please don't look him in the eye, and please don't call him Geoff, because I would have yelled at them. But I want to come across as... I want to like that open collar sofa government.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking
but
of.
He'll
But
have
not
told
really.
you once, and he won't tell you again.
Yeah. You get one chance.
Yeah.
Has that been a thing? As a side note, are there loads of prime ministers and politicians that do the whole "call me Geoff" thing, or is it very formal?
I think it depends on the prime minister. So, like the "call me Geoff," obviously, you had David Cameron when he was trying to take a leaf out of Tony Blair's book and saying "call me Dave," and despite his Etonian education, and he actually was one of the first leaders I can recall who did a whole YouTube series on the Web Cameron, I think it was called, and I think it was Peter Hitchens or someone sort of pointed out he tried to sort of humanise himself by like washing dishes and doing normal people things that people from Eton probably don't do. And then Peter Hitchens pointed out, well, actually, when most people wash their dishes, they tend to roll up their bloody sleeves and not wear full collar shirts.
The problem with that is they came up with the name first.
Yes,
that's always the issue with those kind of ideas. The cinema and theatre seat thing, though, I am going to push back, because I think the worse a comedy venue is the more comfortable the chairs are.
Oh, comedy, you want them to be very uncomfortable.
But if you're doing a theatre gig, you don't want it to be too comfy, because when you do gigs and they're all in sofas, it's absolutely dreadful.
Yes, you want them to be cold and uncomfortable and be grateful for the distraction.
Oh, it's like whenever you get booked to go and do like a gig in a Soho house and they're all basically lounging around like Romans.
Yeah.
And you just think it's just the least funny thing in the world.
Yeah.
Whenever you're saying this, you go, oh, yeah. Nobody's sat there having to concentrate to ignore how awful their life is right now.
Nobody's ever laughed on a chaise longue.
Never.
Apart from in kind of an ironic way, whilst eating grapes, maybe. But they're not enjoying comedy on a chaise longue, I don't think.
No, it's an annoyance.
Yeah.
So, maybe there's going to have to be some sort of, the theatre comedians, the people that tour those venues, there'll be something we can put on the comfortable seats to make them worse for them.
Yeah, spikes.
Yep, fine, cool. Okay, lovely. I'm glad we could sort that out.
Or like minor electric shock, just to sort of jolt them awake if they're dozing off.
Like decommissioned electric chairs you're suggesting?
Yeah, let's plump
they're
them up.
Covered up with, sort of padding, so they're comfortable. But if they're
they haven't got the thing for the head.
No. But if they're dozing off, then suddenly you get a little jolt.
Yeah. I'm not offended by a dozer, if I'm honest, in a gig. Like if someone falls asleep in a gig, it's fair enough. They're not disturbing me in any way.
They're not on their phone,
actually.
So.
Oh, I shouted out in my sleep in a gig once. This was back when I was drinking. I've not had to drink for many, many years, like decades. But one time I'd gone to see my friend do stand-up in a pub, and I was so drunk that I passed out, and it was around the time that Lady Diana, Queen of Hearts, had departed this earth, and he had some bit. It was long enough that he was doing a bit about it, and in my sleep I shouted out, "It wasn't me." And I feel mortified to this day. I still carried on drinking for several years after that, but it was a horrible
Denying
thing.
the murder of Princess Diana was rock bottom.
Yeah, and no one was accusing me. Do you remember the Diana condolence books?
No.
So they were everywhere.
Yeah.
So in every public institution there was a Diana condolence book. I'm sure they're all in landfill now. Sorry, like the British Library or whatever it is. But
4 volumes, 130,000 printed messages of condolences, apparently.
well, mine was one of them.
Wow.
And I'm not a royalist.
wasn't me.
I'd never shown any interest in Lady Diana, but I found myself in a waiting room and I was bored. So I wrote something, and I can't remember what I wrote, but it was trite and heartfelt. I wasn't like sticking it to the royals by writing a sarcastic message. But it was in a waiting room of a sexually transmitted diseases clinic in Withington in Manchester, the hospital I was born in. And I was waiting to have genital warts burned off, which I had given myself. Because
How did you give me?
I had 13 verrucas on one foot at one point. I was constantly like touching and picking at them, and the verrucas spread from my feet to my hands to my penis. And NHS
The
waiting
immaculate
times.
genital warts.
Yeah, it was the end of the major years. I'm guessing this is the beginning of the Blair years, and it was quite a long wait. And there was one of those books there, and it's before the internet, so I thought I'll just write something nice in the condolence book
is
for
there
Diana.
a distinct possibility that someone might have picked up your genital warts from signing the book of condolences to Diana?
You may have given them to the Queen when I'm assuming she wiped her ass with those messages. That's probably why they did it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I also need to get this straight. Maybe we need to talk about health in a second, because you've given yourself genital warts.
Yes.
And you've also got herpes from your mother-in-law.
Oh yeah, I did get herpes from my mother-in-law, so I've got a recurring herpes on my mouth.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law came lunging at me on my wedding day. I could see that she had a weeping cold sore, and she tried to kiss me on the lips. I said, "Lynn, please don't." And she said, "No, it's not infectious." And she gave me a kiss on the lips. No, you didn't snog me. There was, but anyway, on the aeroplane as we were heading for our honeymoon, I felt the tingle.
Oh, no.
And I was unable, perhaps in a way that she was relieved about, to kiss my wife during our honeymoon. And if I'm getting stressed or if the seasons are changing, it's back. At least annually, this herpes.
And that's it, because look, and I hope it doesn't happen, but if you and your wife were to ever split, you would always have something of your mother-in-law with you.
Yeah, always something.
Yeah. Every time you get one, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I was married." Okay, well look, that's culture, media and sport, I think, sorted. We're going to move on now to defence. Obviously this is a big one, there's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah.
How do you feel about defence and what we need to do in your premiership?
Well, what I would do is I would just simplify it to a simple policy message, which is like hide behind the big kid. So whoever the big kid is, presumably it's America, but it might be.
It's kind of NATO, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll continue NATO.
Yeah. But no pretense that we're a military power. Let's just be open about it and say we're going to hide behind the big kid. 'Cause I myself, I tend to blow pacifist on these things.
Yeah.
I've never been in a fight. I did once get hit, which is as close to being in a fight.
When?
Have you ever played at the Frog and Bucket in Manchester?
I have played at the Frog and Bucket in Manchester.
This is a comedy club in Manchester, and it's an old Yates's Wine Lodge, which was a chain of pubs up there. And there was this little pub called the Frog and Bucket, which had open mic comedy on a Monday, and we used to go there every week. And they moved to bigger premises. And have you noticed that they've never quite got the stinking vomit out of it? It's been open over 20 years now.
And like every Yates's.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, it's
fragrance,
it's
like
a custom
Abercrombie and
comedy
Fitch.
venue, and it's not quite right.
Right.
It's not. It's sort of. They're quite rowdy. There's a balcony that's weird. The stage is way too high. It's rife for trouble.
Yes.
Always.
So I'd gone along to the opening night of that, and my ex-girlfriend turned up with her new boyfriend, who decided he didn't like the way that I was looking at them, and he came over and punched me in the face. Now, my reaction was to take a couple of steps backwards, but fortunately I had two friends there. Chris Addison,
Yes.
who's a comedian who people know as Ollie from The Thick of It,
Yeah.
and a Manchester legend called Smug Roberts.
Yeah, I know
and,
Smug
and
Roberts.
very quickly, they grabbed an arm each and pretended that they were restraining me, when in actual fact I was cowering.
So we need the equivalent of that on the world stage.
Yes. So I want to cower. I want our country to cower, but give the pretense that it's spoiling for a fight.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Because, look, we don't have any military power, do we? Haven't they? We just failed a couple of tests, nuclear-wise.
Failed a launch from the Trident missiles, which hopefully is a routine thing, but also not great, is it? Our army's smaller than, I think, during the Napoleonic era. So yeah, not doing great. So we do need cowering.
I think I'm
significant
not
cowering.
fussy which bigger kid either.
No.
Like everyone always goes, we need to protect ourselves from China. Why? They
I
know
like
what they're
TikTok.
doing.
TikTok's great, isn't it? I'm sorry, people have got all this stuff to say about China, but TikTok's algorithm much better than Instagram.
Much better.
Yes. So
it knows how you feel up to the minute.
Yes.
It's so good.
yes,
And I'm cool with them knowing that.
yeah, me too. Which shows our immense privilege, doesn't it? It's nice to know that there is, just like how you might feel about yourself. There's some privilege still there.
Okay, well, there we go. That's a nice, easy defence policy. Hide behind the... That's essentially what we've been doing for years.
Pretty much, yeah. Everyone's been hiding behind America. Unfortunately, Donald Trump did kind of call it out and say, Russia, if you're going to invade people, could you please do it to people that don't pay the 2% requirement of NATO because we're not going to fund them? Annoyingly, it does also mean that I have to defend Donald Trump here a little bit because he was speaking to the United Nations and effectively called out Germany from the world stage and said, you're buying all this oil from Russia, yet we're paying to protect you from Russia. And the German ambassador to the UN or whatever just laughed at it. And this was way before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which then there was the scramble of, we can't buy Russian oil and gas. So despite his many, many flaws on this one particular issue, he might have had a point.
This is how it starts. I can tell you're on manoeuvres because the Trump podcasting, vlogging, this space is very lucrative, presumably.
If Trump did a podcast, people would listen to that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you and him.
We're now going to move on to the Home Office.
Yeah, so there's been some talk recently of conscription making a comeback, and my dad, as well as telling me that I'm lucky that I wasn't born 30 miles in any direction, otherwise I'd be down the pit. He was always telling me that I was lucky that I never had to do national service. Neither did he. But
that's that generation,
that generation,
though,
isn't it? Yeah. So my idea is like conscription, but this is Home Office, but you were also into kind of climate change, Environment Secretary stuff, because it's been conscripted, like you get conscripted for jury service, so short bursts, 2-3 weeks, to go and do bits of rewilding.
Great.
You're clearing a thicket.
Yeah.
A copse. You're doing something in a copse.
Lovely.
Helping with biodiversity. But more importantly than that, you're mixing with different types of people. Because this isn't going to be like jury service where rich people can wheedle their way out of it.
Yeah.
This is very hard line. It's not just young people. It forces people from different social backgrounds onto, it's not quite a chain gang, but it's like when you see people do community service. Maybe they're painting a mural. A weeding gang, yeah. And maybe there's a mural, or maybe they're clearing some graffiti off a wall. But I quite like the graffiti.
Just some sort of community activities.
Yeah, and it's throwing people who don't know how to talk to each other together. And I was thinking about, some time ago, my life insurance salesman turned 60. And he invited me to his 60th birthday. And his client roster is diverse, not in ethnicity, but in terms of income. And he introduced me to somebody who was the chief executive of a company. And we had very awkward small talk, the three of us. Life insurance salesman gets dragged away. It's his birthday party. Within 10 seconds, this guy says to me, "Geoff, it was nice to meet you." Shakes my hand. And then he just turns his back on me. Oh. He stands facing a wall rather than continue the awkward small talk. And we don't know how to talk to people from different backgrounds. And I think weeding is the solution.
When I was at uni, I was once at a party and someone introduced me to this girl. She said, "Oh, this is my friend Matt. This is whatever her name is." And then they left us to it. And then about 30 seconds in, she went, "I'm just going to go and stand over there." No,
it's awful.
No
isn't
excuse. I'd just rather stand
Pretend
by myself.
You're going to the toilet.
Yeah.
Although, can I tell this story without getting into any names? Yeah, probably. There's
we can beep them out. It's fine.
There's a friend of mine who works in comedy in BBC Radio, and he was at one of these talent parties. And also at the party, there was an American writer who'd come over here as a big shot and had a sitcom commissioned. And he'd managed to do this on his reputation because he'd been a writer on Seinfeld and maybe the Larry Sanders Show. My friend, who is a comedy nerd, knows that this guy's name appears once on the credits of one of those shows. So it's just bullshit. It's just before you could easily
Classic American
go
bullshit.
onto IMDb and check this stuff out. So my friend, who's a little drunk at this stage, goes up to him and says, hey, so you're going around telling everyone you worked on Seinfeld. I know your name's only on one episode as a consulting. What have you? And the guy goes, oh, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. I just need a piss. He then watches the guy go across the room and start talking to somebody else. But instead of leaving it, he goes up to him and says, what about this piss then?
Good for him, though.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. And I think this rewilding gang would force people together. Because social cohesion, it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's important. There's gotten so much shit since COVID, and people just on their phones so many times. So all different hours of the day, people are
I'm
on
on
their
mine
phones. You are, yeah.
You just can't help it, can you? Have there been any efforts to sort of improve how we socialise and how we talk to each other in any governments before, anywhere in the world?
Big society.
Oh God, yeah.
Big society.
Another one of David
This is going to be the
Cameron's
Green
greatest-
Society.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, lovely.
Oh, the Dig Society.
The Dig Society. I mean, come on. That's why you're in the big job. Things like that, yes.
Yeah, detail I'm not great on.
You came up
Digging
with
for Britain, it's fine.
yeah.
Weeding for Britain.
You came up with Web Cameron as well, didn't you?
I would have done, given the time.
Exactly.
Monkeys with
I think this
typewriters
is
would.
great. I think, maybe it'll give people... Because I don't think we're a very compassionate society anymore, because people don't know enough people who are different to them anymore.
No, and people make assumptions about different kinds of people.
And you go, maybe those children shouldn't go hungry. I did work for 3 weeks with their mum.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is the best policy so far, actually,
Okay.
of the day. We're going to skip a little bit now to health.
So does this come under health? I think all toilets should be public toilets.
Yeah.
So not in your house.
In the train stations, for example.
But here, so we're sitting in some kind of office complex today.
Yeah.
I feel that I should just be able to come in here and use the lavatory.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That could come under if we say it needs to come under.
Yeah.
Then we have to then hire loo inspectors. From the Department of Health.
You would be surprised at some of the places that I've defecated in. I think there are worse than prisons sometimes.
Fair.
Those metal toilets without a seat on them.
God,
Well,
yeah.
they sort of they spray themselves after every use.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrifying.
Yeah, I think it should be part of so you have the right to start a business, but part of your responsibility should be that the toilets of that business are open to all.
If you ever have to go into somewhere and do a hover job, then that's a fail.
I hate it. I have mental maps of where toilets are in certain pubs because I don't like to go in and then do that thing.
Well, you look like you've got to go with purpose.
You've got to go directly in,
Yeah.
and then if it's a Pret or something and there's a code on the door, that's horrible. My wife says that her superpower is to be able to go into the toilet anywhere and ask to use, go into any restaurant or hotel, bar, whatever it is, and ask to use the toilet.
And they'll just
let her in. But whereas that does not go well for me if I try it.
Really?
Yeah. I tried it the other week. What? No, this is not a great story. It doesn't
Go
reflect
on.
well. It involves me. Oh God. This is horrible.
Great.
We love it.
Yeah, I'm 50, and we've been on whatever type of night out of a middle-aged couple go on. And then in the Uber on the way back, I was really bursting for a wee. And my wife was saying, well, there's all these bars. Why don't we just stop at one of them and you can go in and use the toilet? I'm saying the bouncer will take against me. This is what's going to happen. The bouncer will take against me and won't let me go to the toilet. So sure enough, we stop. It's in the city in London. And I run across this place which is heaving. I say, hi, would it be possible to just pop and use your lavatory, please? And he goes, no, I'm sorry, it's a private party. Yeah, private party. I say, please, I promise you, I'll just like in and out. I'll buy a drink if you want me to. He says, no, absolutely not. And I said, oh, come on, I'm old. Look at me. I'm not going to. I don't think I'm not a good advertisement for your establishment. You wouldn't use me to attract other customers, but I'm not going to cause any problems. And he wouldn't. So, it was on like this alley, and they got plant pots outside that definitely belonged to the bar, and I went and like pointedly urinated in a plant pot. Like whilst trying to maintain eye contact with him. It's not good. It's not good.
Yes!
I haven't said
We
that's
like
the first
that.
time I said that out loud, and
That
I'm
is
not proud.
an excellent. That's the kind of person we want.
It's like something
In
an
power.
animal would do, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
horrible. Yeah.
It's about sending a
So
message. I think
horrible.
it's important to do so to some,
Yes.
to that, because that's the kind of behaviour
Well, the
your
message is the
government wouldn't
medium, and the
tolerate.
medium is urine.
Yeah,
in
that's
this
absolutely
instance.
fine.
Yeah.
I think this is a great idea because my girlfriend is very. I'll just go in anywhere and use their toilet. Whereas I don't like going into a private premises and just being confident and using the loo. I will wait until I find a public toilet,
Yes.
and it's obviously disgusting. But when I'm at the point where it could go either way, that I'm going to make it rather than just popping into a pub.
Yeah.
The only one I'll do is hotels.
Hotels are great, and go as fancy. You know, I've got a mental map of very fancy hotels. I'll go into Claridge's and urinate.
Yes,
because
yes.
I feel like there's some. I feel like I'm being some kind of class warrior when I'm doing it. I don't understand how.
You really love sending a message with urine, don't you?
Yeah. Like skywriting.
I think what's missing is you had the sort of old school Victorian toilets that were sort of, you go underground underneath a highway or something, and they don't exist anymore. They've been turned into nightclubs.
Yeah, you go and spend £17 on a cocktail in there
Yeah.
instead, don't you?
Yeah, which is outrageous. But
I think this is an excellent idea. I don't think anyone would be against this.
Okay.
Because everyone needs the loo at an inappropriate time at some point in their lives.
Have
so
we
they
got the
sympathise.
votes? Have we got the votes on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah,
We've got
yeah,
it.
that's
It's gonna get through the
absolutely
Lords.
fine.
pass
You
through.
don't see any amendments?
You know, obviously we might have to monitor, things like sexual activity in these toilets, because if you open up all toilets, you might get the new version of cottaging going on, officing.
No, there's not going to happen because people are too socially awkward for that now. They're too busy on their phones and on their apps, so they just.
Do you think?
Yeah, I
Do
reckon
you think
so.
the phone has ruined cottaging? Is that what you're saying?
That's
Lorin?
what I'm saying. Yeah. So one
let me-
benefit of digital ruining everything is.
Let me tell you what was a nail in the coffin of importuning.
Yeah.
Is the coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I live near a cemetery, and for many years, you just knew that if you went into this cemetery after about 2 PM, there were going to be importuners. It was their territory. That was the unwritten rule. And then during COVID, a lot of people would take their kids for outdoor play in there.
Yeah.
And I feel that the importuners thought, well, we can't really be doing this with children around, and retreated, and they haven't really come back. As far as I can see.
What a shame.
Yeah. This is an effect of the pandemic that no one is talking
No
about.
one is talking about it. There might be a subreddit somewhere where they're talking about it. This feels quite mainstream for this conversation.
The importuners have been driven out of the graveyards. By
Well,
families getting there 1 hour a day.
Do you want to do something about that as well? Do you think we should encourage importunity? Well, but I suppose if it's allowed and encouraged, then that takes the fun out of it, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Maybe, yeah. Zones? Can we zone it?
Yeah.
Well, we could do so. Going back to The Wire, you know how in the third series he created Amsterdam, which was the stuff, the areas designated where it wasn't a priority, so drug dealing could go on there because they wouldn't be allowed. So we would do importuner zones where probably nothing's going to happen to you, but you never know.
Yeah. I like the importuners. There's something nice and retro about it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like,
I mean, it's bleak when you think about it too much.
like
but-
adult cinemas.
Yes.
Like it's creepy, but in a nice way,
Yes.
isn't it?
I used to live in Manchester on Oxford Road. There used to be a place, I can't remember what it's called actually, but it used to have a sign up saying adult cinema and coffee lounge, and then it said air conditioned across the top. And I thought, I wonder how much work the air conditioning and the coffee lounge were doing in attracting customers. Like, was anybody going in there just for the coffee and the cool air?
It's always like, not that far from here, there's the Pleasure Drome, which is a gay sauna.
Uh-huh.
And when the Queen died, they put out a tweet saying, on all the screens, we will be showing the funeral. As if that's someone went, well, I wasn't going to go, but if the funeral's on. Like someone went, we know how to get them in. Because no one wants to be in a sauna when the Queen's funeral's on. That is
Well,
proper
no, they
telly.
do want to be in the sauna, but they don't want to miss the funeral.
You can't,
You got two birds,
you
one stone.
don't have
it.
to pick.
Yes.
Also, think
yeah.
about the story. You'll tell, oh yeah, I was in this gay sauna and I was watching the Queen's funeral. That's a moment in time. Where were you when? I was in the gay sauna.
Where were
Yeah.
you when the Queen was getting buried? Well, I mean... Anyway, Anyway, that is excellent. We're going to move on now to transport.
Yes. So transport. Oh yeah. Yes. So I think there should be a highway code for pedestrians. Because I am a pedestrian. I don't drive. I occasionally ride a bicycle. But we don't know how to behave on pavements in this country. I had a friend who, I thought this was a brilliant idea. When it's raining, you've got two people approaching each other with an umbrella. The taller person raises their umbrella.
Right.
Because no one knows what to do.
No.
So it's like jousting or something. You get into this standoff. And I think there are lots of different occasions. Like the canal. Like sometimes I used to, during lockdown, I used to like ride my bike on the canal. I didn't know how to behave. People with dogs didn't know how to behave.
The importuners.
Yeah, the importuners. And I just think we need a clear set of rules. And why not the highway code for pedestrians?
Do you remember when you were at school, did you do cycling proficiency?
I didn't, but I'm aware of it, yes.
So when I was at primary school, it must have been the same with you. Like you
got taken to that random...
You got taken to a junction and they went, here's how you don't die.
Yeah.
On a bike. It should be the same when we're 11. They teach you how to walk properly in life.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think phones out is not great. Unless what we should have is a phone lane on the paths.
How do the exits work?
Oh no, okay, right.
But you are changing, so the phone lane's like the slow lane, but you do still need to cut across it to get to an exit.
Well, maybe indicating with your arms is not an unacceptable thing.
Like flapping.
Yeah,
I'm into it. Yeah,
like just one of those,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And then like you're on a bike, but just with you walking down the street.
I hate that, putting my arm out on a bike.
Do you?
It doesn't feel like a very natural gesture to me.
I think it looks really passive aggressive. I think when a bike
it's the best
does
kind
it.
of aggressive.
Yeah, well, of course it is. Yeah, that's what we're not going to be an aggressive Premiership, are we? We're going to be a passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Oh, if you want to start a war. I think the pavements in London as well. So I live in the middle of nowhere now, and no one's around. It's a dream to walk. And everyone says hello. Everyone sticks to their sides. The dogs are where they should be. In London, it's carnage.
Does everyone know your name?
Yeah, they do. It's really weird.
Oh, that's horrendous.
I really like it.
No, people say, I want to move away from the city to get away from all these people. You're interacting with people more where you are now.
There's less of them, but they're all very involved in your life.
That sounds horrendous to me.
Yeah, like I think I lived in London 10 years. Only after COVID did I know any of my neighbours. But
you should start a dark rumour about yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you might end up with things being set on fire on your front lawn, or maybe your windows smashed. But that to me would be worth it in order to not have all these little micro interactions.
Well, we were the talk of the Facebook group recently because we've had some house alarm problems, and everyone's been bitching about our house alarm. And I tell you what, I do not like the taste of that medicine.
Have you issued a statement?
Well, yeah, I did put something up going, this is our house alarm, we're really sorry. And the woman who started the post moaning about this alarm going off every so often just went, thank you, please keep us updated. So it's nothing to do with you, you nosy bitch. Keep us updated. Call the police if my alarm's going off. Don't just go, oh, who's this annoying person?
Honestly, digital curtain switching is just, you thought it would be a good thing past. But next door and ring, just no.
I thought I loved it until it was turned back on me.
Yeah, when you're the one doing the twitching, it's fine.
When I see someone else moaning about, the owner of the black BMW, do you not know what 20 miles an hour is? Like, I love that shit. Yeah. But when it was about my house, no.
What revenge are you taking against the woman who started the alarm?
Well,
threads.
So I run a comedy club in the village we live in, and I went on stage and bitched about it, moaned about it, as you would if I could get something out of that, to try some material. And she was at the gig.
Did she heckle?
No, but she came up afterwards and she went, I didn't realise my post was so concerning to you. And I went, I don't really. I was like, it's all for comic effect.
Oh, this is great because you've always got that as a get out.
Yeah.
I was just exaggerating.
Yeah, I was just taking the piss.
Yeah.
The other time that happened to me is there's a house for sale in the village that's way overpriced. And I went on stage and I went, are they high? And they were in their house.
Were they high?
No, they weren't. They're just deluded about how much their house is worth. And I really laid into it. I think at one point in one of the intervals, I was on the right move going, do you think that's worth £750,000? And they were sat in the crowd.
Do you not feel horribly responsible for if a comedian comes and then doesn't have a good gig or tanks or people don't like them?
No.
Do you not feel like the village would turn against you? Or do you feel responsible for the audience?
Or have you ever had someone where you're like, right, I want the villagers and the pitchforks to turn up and get this guy?
No, because luckily, I've yet to run out of acts I respect, because I've only been running it about a year and a half, but there will come a point where I go,
seriously?
Yeah.
But So some people have been back several times then.
Yeah, the 3 people are like, well, Sarah keeps cancelling. So it's I do feel a bit responsible. Like, if an act doesn't do great, or sometimes if someone pulls out, you have to take a punt on someone that just last minute. And then I get quite stressed because I think, I don't know if I've not really seen them before, if they don't like them, and then it'll affect ticket sales. I'm more bothered about my bottom line than anything else. It's quite a thin margin of profit.
Right.
But it's weird. But I think, I like walking and people talk to you and everyone's respectful. Much slower. I think there should be speed limits.
Oh, what? People should walk more slowly?
No, I think everyone should walk at the same speed.
Okay. Like, is that like the autobahns? You can't drop beneath, or maybe I'm thinking of the film Speed, where you can't drop beneath a certain speed.
The film Speed is my inspiration for this. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can never drop below a certain speed or get above a certain speed, so that there's going to be no weird things where you walk too closely, and single file. If you're with people, I'm not interested.
Yeah, especially on canals, that used to piss me off so much, especially during lockdown, when you have especially families or couples who have just got this fucking codependency. They have to. It's like the world will descend into nuclear anarchy if they don't hold their hands and block the entire of the canal path.
Yes, families walk along like it's the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. I'd also ban strollers that are 2 or 3 wide. You can have them 2 or 3 long.
Yeah, I like that.
Because I just think they take up too much space on the paths as well.
Yeah. But you're not like banning triplet. You're not advocating for any kind of Joseph Mengele.
Like, congratulations, it's triplets. Which one dies? It's not the policy.
Okay, good.
Human centipede buggies, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly that. Yeah, lovely stuff. Okay, fantastic. Well, I think finally we're going to move on to some constitutional reform.
Yes.
I think you've got some strong opinions on this, Prime Minister. Geoff, Your Excellence.
Okay, so, I think I'd like to, abolish the House of Commons.
Okay.
So, I don't mean abolish MPs. I don't mean abolish Parliament. I've talked to people, and I'm not sure that any mind is ever changing during the debate. I think it's all theatre, and I detest all the rah-rah stuff. I remember once interviewing William Hague and just making this point about Prime Minister's Question Time. He said, well, you'd be more worried if it wasn't like that. I was thinking, I don't know if I would, actually. I think there's plenty of countries which have parliaments where people behave quite normally and sit at modern desks and have much more simple ways of voting. And I also hate it when you'll see on Facebook members of the public saying, look, this is how many MPs turned up for a debate on MPs' pay rises, and then it's packed. And it's like, and this is how many MPs turned up on a debate on whether we should love our nurses more, and there's 3 of them. Because that's not the job.
No.
The job is whatever they're doing the rest of the time, and you can judge them on the merits or otherwise of that. But the House of Commons, the debate, is just theatre, and people know how they're going to vote by and large before they go in there. So what a terrible waste of time it is. And then you could hire it out for functions. Probably not ideal for comedy, although it's uncomfortable.
It's no worse than the Frog and Bucket. It's probably better, actually.
Yeah,
it's quite small. They're on top of you.
Yeah.
There's actually there's less seats in there than there are MPs. So that's why you'll
insanity.
always see in all of the Prime Minister's questions and all stuff, you'll have MPs sort of hanging about by the speakers. And what my old boss, who was a deputy chief whip, you mentioned the theatre. What they used to do is hide behind the speaker's chair and then start making the noise, because apparently when you're at the dispatch box and a wall of noise hits you, it can put you off, off your feet and deter you.
But grow up though, right?
Yeah.
I quite like. I'm sort of controversial. I quite like the theatre of it, and I get your point about voting. But what a lot of people have said, in terms of the slightly archaic way we vote, which is we go into the division lobbies, the ayes and the noes, and what they will say is, particularly on important stuff, when it comes to, say, declaring war or any kind of serious decision like that, it's a completely different thing to press a button, which a lot of other parliaments do, and then have to physically drag yourself to this
And
particular
have everyone
part.
else see you do
See
it.
you do it and know, actually, I'm walking this. It's not click a button. I'm carrying myself towards voting for such a huge consequential
Interesting.
thing.
That's a really interesting take on it, actually. Do you still want the buttons?
That's what big
Nah,
buttons
buttons.
like Britain's Got Talent.
With the noise?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So anyone doing a debate, three buttons, and then you're out.
Yeah.
Or a golden buzzer, and then it's law automatically.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could randomly assign an MP every week. Or I could have the golden buzzer.
You can have the golden
I'd
buzzer.
Like the golden
you
buzzer.
can have the golden buzzer.
I
You
want
and
to
Amanda
brandish that
Holden.
mace as well. What is that? Brandishing the mace.
Well, that'll get you chucked out, though.
Oh, why?
Sadly. Because it's there to symbolise that Parliament is in session. So MPs like Michael Heseltine have got chucked out for grabbing the mace in the middle of the
Why
debate.
did he grab it?
To try and disrupt the discussion and to try and call it. And then others like the Labour MP Lloyd Russell-Moyle have done it. And then it's to sort of signify their contempt for the debate that's going on and to try and disrupt it in that way. So,
But I don't get to brandish many things. It's not a verb that comes into.
I mean, we can try and this is part of the constitutional reform. We can make sure that we can give you a new mace to brandish.
Okay, more brandishable
Yeah.
objects.
Yeah, we can.
okay.
It's a brandish a week you can have.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
happy. Okay, well, look, I think these are all great policies that we need to be getting on with. You're a big Beatles aficionado, is that
I am,
correct?
yes, yeah.
Which Beatles song should we have as the national anthem?
That's a good question. I mean, if I wanted to be trite, I'd say All You Need Is Love.
Lovely.
But I don't want to be trite, so I'm scanning the brain for like an octopus's garden. I mean, help would be
An
good.
Octopus's Garden. Can you imagine every rugby and football match?
Because we'd all like to be under the sea
Yeah,
in an octopus's garden in the
absolutely.
shade, wouldn't we?
If we
Yes.
get invaded, we could be back in the USSR.
Yes. All right.
Okay, lovely.
Okay.
I think that's sorted as well. And if which of the Beatles would you like in your cabinet, dead or alive?
I'd like Ringo for his. I'd like Ringo to be a chief whip for his no nonsense approach. I really liked
a great
his
appointment.
no nonsense approach to fan mail a few years ago.
What was he doing?
He put a video on YouTube basically saying, "If I receive fan mail after the 27th of November, it'll be tossed. I am warning you with peace and love." So he's warning you with. So he's got a nice way about him. He's doing the peace figures. He's saying peace and love.
Yeah.
But he's also saying it will be tossed and he will not sign any more autographs. So he's firm but fair. I think.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
fair enough. Maybe
Yeah.
we need to do a bit more of that with sort of nuclear deterrence and things. And we will launch Trident with peace and love. Just get Ringo involved in everything.
yeah.
To maintain peace and love in the universe, we will not launch nuclear weapons if we have to. Peace and love.
Prime Minister, Your Excellence. Thank you so much. People can find both of your podcasts wherever they get their podcasts. I absolutely love your podcast. They like to watch. It's so good.
Thank you. This is my wife and I.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy
Do you
that.
feel sad about my marriage?
No.
Okay.
Never.
I've
I've seen her do a lot of stand-up actually, so I was sort of. It's if anything, it's an improvement on what I thought was going on.
You're not getting this sort of Georgia Mildred vibe. No? Okay.
And your other podcast, Adrift with Annabelle Port. You can get them wherever, and you've just done your 300th episode of that.
Yes, we have. We did a live episode. It's about social awkwardness and to be in a room with like 150 other very socially awkward people who can't make eye contact. Or, in fact, like the biggest laugh. So I came on and said, what would be great is if you just turn to the person next to you and say hello. And everybody instinctively burst out laughing because the understanding was in that room that is the worst thing that can happen to a person. Having to speak to a stranger.
The problem there is you've gone, you're socially awkward. Here is something, your own little island of listening. Why don't you come and do it with everyone else? What a nightmare you caused.
Yes,
because they want to support you, but that would have been hard work for a lot of those people.
Well, God bless them for paying the £12 each.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there we go. Yeah,
I kept it nice and low for them.
Yeah, fair enough. Because you don't.
Somebody sent me an email yesterday saying that price was too low, £12.
Too low?
Yeah. What do you think is a fair price?
I 15 quid I think is pretty good.
Okay.
Because I think 15 quid is just when I start to think, oh, I'll go because I've paid. I would sometimes if I can't be bothered, £12 feels reasonable to skip.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be a dream as a performer though? Like not have to. Nobody's turned up. They've all thought, I paid my money, but I can't be bothered going out.
You know what though? So the gig we run, we have at least 10% of the audience who bought tickets don't show every month.
So do you ever sound like the airlines then?
We did 1 month and everyone came. So we stopped doing it. But yeah, 10% of people just don't bother coming. But they're just sort of like paying a comedy tax. Yeah, it's happening. Lovely, thank you.
We'll build it into the budget.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I Am Prime Minister is a Viral Tribe production. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube @IamPM.